Hello and welcome. I'm Steve C, General Chaos, and getting back to this Pacific War Malaya campaign, and it's basically my sessions 2, 3, and 4 with AaronPlays, and I have vassal going here, and it's going to go on an automatic running through the vassal file, so it's going to click pretty fast, pretty much one action per second. So getting into going back into our battle cycles, you can see us rolling for initiative, and you can see I have the map on the left side with the chat box, so you can see we're in the ground phase and I'm moving around towards Bangkok. And we get into the naval, and we have some and then also with the ground, there's movement of the ground. I think I had kind of forgotten that's why there was ground then naval, but I had forgotten this stack that needed to move from my initial landing. So we do some more searches, and I detect his naval force, but then in my naval phase I end up moving my task force for bombardment purposes. Then we get into the air mission phase, and I try to try to bomb run or do a naval strike on his 4C. So you can see I put the bombers all in one group and attack. And you can see us forming on the battle board. And with this, I pretty much try to put all my focus on the Prince of Wales. There was a slight error in our calculations because I think we were using the naval or F unit versus naval, and that gives kind of a little better results when actually there's only one F unit, and I think the rest are T's, and we forgot to shift to the naval versus or TR unit versus naval. So I think instead of the 3 hits, I think there was only 1 hit. Then we get to there was no naval combat, but we get into bombardment, and then where we have this ground attack occurring, I'm able to do some bombardment, so I try to bombard the ground unit there. I'm successful with the bombard, but he makes a successful TQC check. And now we're in the demolition, and he was able to demo under Force 2, the base. And then now we get into the ground combat, or my task force 1 is. And I end up getting a good result, and I think basically just eliminating him. Then we continue through the turn cycle, or battle cycle I should say, and we get to his movement. He starts moving his naval task force away, and I don't think there was much. Here's the ground movement here in the disadvantaged movement phase. There's no air missions. And then we get to the joint activation deactivation, and I don't think I remember much being quite done there. But then we start back into finish up that battle cycle with detections, reset the detections, move the day marker and the lighting, and we start a new battle cycle. And I think he was using his option to adjust the date tracker. Or I should say. And I go to I win the advantage, and I go into ground. Then we go into the naval movement, and we start doing some searches. And I start moving the task forces, basically trying to return stuff back home. Then we go to air missions, and here's where I'm trying to, with my current missions, really trying to find his air units and trying to not just suppress them, but to try to eliminate them. So I'm sending a wave here to attack this base, because I believe there's a air unit there. So we move everything to the battle board, and as you can see, it's an LRA and looks like an F unit. And he fails the detection roll, so I think I get to probably did some strafing here. If not, I bomb the base. Oh no bomb. Looks like I'm strafing with all my F units on his F and trying to break the ground unit. And it looks like it's eliminated the air unit, F unit of his. I successfully bomb the ground unit, but he rallies, or makes his TQ check, I should say. And everybody goes home. Then I do a second air mission with other air units, and this time I'm going for Singapore. Again, trying to catch any air units, hopefully on the ground. So then here on the battle board we can see his task forces, or yeah, his task force, and it does look like he has a T unit, air unit. But he does make his detection roll, so that's why I don't think I'm able to actually attack his air unit, because it scrambles off, and since I'm only T units, I can't engage the air unit, so all I can do is try to bomb the base. Or actually, I'm not bombing that, I'm just bombing his ground units, trying to break those. And we're done with that air mission. So we go back into the battle cycles. There's no naval combat. There's no bombardment. We get to demolitions, and he's trying to roll for some of his bases to demo, but I don't think he's successful. Then he goes into his disadvantaged movement, moving his task force even farther away. So he's doing some kind of ferrying missions there of the LRA from Force 4 to this Force 16. And we finished that battle cycle. Remove detections, adjust the day marker, go to lighting, and we do our initiative rolling again. And it looks like I won that. So I'm doing my advantage movement with naval on the ground. I move my task force back up. And then we go to air missions. So again, here I think we don't use the battle board. So I think I'm just trying to break the ground units with my air units because I know there's no air there anymore. Then I do it is dusk, so there is dusk landings, dice rolls. Then we get to the second airstrike, and this time I end up trying to go for his force 5. Again, just with T units of mine, air units. He makes his detection roll, but I think I find out that there's really no air units again, so I'm just bombarding we're making bomb runs on the ground units. But again, I have to roll for dusk landings. And I think I take a hit there on one of the units. Then they fly back home. So then back to the battle cycles. There's no naval combat bombardment, so I try to bombard under my task force 1 onto his force. Then we get to demolitions. Tries demoing. Fails. Back to the battle cycles. He's trying to rally some of his units here, both where I bombarded and where I did some airstrikes. Then we get to the disadvantage movement with which is him. So he does his naval and comes back into the Singapore hex. Moves some of his ground units into Singapore. No air missions. And we get to the joint activation deactivation phase. And so we start a new battle cycle. And I think he deactivated his naval units there as well. And then here in the ground movement phase, reinforced from 16 to 5. Go back to the battle cycle. There's no naval combat, no bombardment. He's trying to still demo some of his bases. No success. There's no ground combat. Starts trying to do some rallying. Successful. And we get to his movement. Actually, it looks like my movement. And I'm trying to move my forces back home. And we're back at the joint activation deactivation. And then this is, I think, where we're kind of talking about, because we're getting close to the first op-end and reaction and the markers. If you look on the trackers, the day tracker and the lighting tracker there in the upper right with the circles. And that's what I think I'm trying to explain to him, that because this is where the day marker is going to enter. It's going to go from the 12th to the 14th in the next phase or two. So that's when penalty time kicks in. But I think we basically know that he's pretty much all deactivated, but I'm the one who has the issue with I still have a task force there in the waters there. So when we get to the 14th, that's what's happening now. We place we're showing the op ends, which ones are the dummies. But then we also have to put the penalty time marker down for me, and I have to pay for that task force. And then we go into the next battle cycle. It looks like I went in and do some searching a little bit. Then I'm moving that task force back home and planning to quickly deactivate that before any losses start occurring. So we get to the demolitions. He's still trying to blow up his base. He blows up that one. He's got force 5 there. So he's basically only got the 2 bases currently at force 5 and force 16. He's doing some rallying. 2 more searches, and then we get to the end of the battle cycles since we're all deactivated. So then we get into kind of out of the battle cycles and into the next op. And again, we do some bidding in the operational determination phase, but I, Mr. Pan, I'm the only one who's got points. So I win the operation. And that's where we get into a little bit of the planning here. I create a new task force, Task Force 1 at Saigon. And he's making his intelligence roll because we're trying to prepare for the contact phase. And again, my objective here is to follow up with a second naval invasion. So that's what Task Force 1 is. And then there's the resetting of the day tracker. So the 14th becomes the operational begin. Then you got to put the op-end markers, all 3, the real one and the 2 dummies. Set them in the proper days. And then we go back into the new battle cycles. So it looks like I won and have advantage. I did some searching, but then it's the movement of the task force. Or it's not, this is the contact phase. So this is where we do the 1 hex. Well, before we start moving, we do a search, 1 hex, do searches. So at 2 hexes out, you can see he spots me. They lets me continue on for a couple more hexes. So we actually get to hex 4, and then he stops me. And it's revealed that it's interception. So now we go into the battle cycles. Because there's no reason, he didn't activate any forces. So there's no reason to go into the contact or reaction contact. So we go right into the battle cycles. And he wins initiative in the first battle cycle. And this is going to go pretty quickly because I'm the only one, and it's basically just that task force. So, but we go, he's still trying to do his demolitions and any rallying. Still doing some searches here and there, just trying to see where, keep an eye on his planes, but they're basically all in Singapore now. But I don't currently have any planes activated at this time, so I can't really do any air missions. But my invasion force is basically, as you can see, going around the horn of the peninsula here, around Singapore. with the idea of I'm trying to get to Force 5 there, because that's one of the last air bases, not including Singapore. So I'm trying to grab that base right there, Force 5. And that's him trying to demo it again, but failing. And I guess that's the dilemma I kind of have here as we're playing here. I'm trying to decide, do I want, as I'm coming around here, do I want to directly invade Force 5, or do I want to land 1 hex off and then move landwise into Force 5? Because then I don't have to deal with half the troop quality. So I decided to land 1 hex off and land the Force, hoping that I can get one more failed demo roll from him, so that because there is engineers with this force. So yeah, it's 2 infantry units and an engineer, 16 steps total. So we get to the demo, and here's the big critical roll, and he gets the 1, so the base does blow up. I should have directly invaded Kuala Lumpur. But then that basically takes us to the end of our session, so we'll have to wait until the next session to find out the results. Thank you.